Sir, I'm giving you a lawful order. Get on the ground, now.
I'm not refusing. I'm disabled. If I go down, I don't get back up.
You're failing to comply.
No, officer, you're failing to listen. I'm standing still, I'm unarmed, and you're about to make a serious...
Hands behind your back!
For the record, I am complying under protest, and you are violating my...
The scream shattered the quiet Saturday morning air in the upscale suburb of Oak Creek. It wasn't the voice of a criminal, and it wasn't the sound of a bank robbery in progress. It was the voice of Officer Kyle Braden, a 27-year-old patrolman with a high and tight haircut, and a taser leveled directly at the chest of a man old enough to be his father. "I am not getting on the ground," the man replied. His voice was a deep, resonating baritone that didn't tremble, didn't crack, and certainly didn't beg. "I have 2 metal pins in my left knee and a fused disc in my lower back from serving this country. If I get down on that concrete sun, I'm not getting back up." Marcus Thorne stood like a statue in front of the Bank of America ATM. At 58 years old, he was an imposing figure, 6 feet 2 inches of solid muscle that had somewhat softened with age, but still carried the unmistakable bearing of a man who had commanded respect for decades. He was dressed in a crisp button-down Brooks Brothers shirt, dark pressed slacks, and polished loafers. In his left hand he held a stack of $20 bills he had just withdrawn. In his right hand he held his wallet. "Drop the money! Drop the wallet!" Braden yelled, stepping closer. The red laser dot of the taser danced on Marcus's chest right over his heart. "I will place them on the machine," Marcus said, his movements deliberately slow, telegraphing every inch of motion so there could be no mistake. "But I am not getting on the dirty ground, and I am not resisting. You are making a mistake, officer." "You're failing to comply," Braden shouted. He was young, adrenaline-fueled, and clearly agitated that his command presence wasn't having the desired effect. He had expected fear. He had expected compliance. Instead, he was facing a wall of calm, disciplined authority that seemed to dwarf his own badge. Passers-by had stopped. The morning foot traffic was light, mostly retirees and weekend joggers, but a small crowd was forming. A woman in a floral dress, easily in her 60s, had stopped pushing her stroller and was staring with her mouth open. A man in a tracksuit pulled out his phone. "Officer, look at me," Marcus said, his eyes locking onto Braden's. "I am standing still. My hands are empty now. I am not a threat. You are pointing a less lethal weapon at a senior citizen for withdrawing his own money." "We got a report of suspicious activity at this ATM." Braden spat back, his finger twitching near the trigger mechanism. "Tampering with a financial device. You fit the description." "What description?" Marcus asked calmly. "A black man in a shirt. It's 10:45 on a Saturday morning. I'm banking. Turn around. Hands behind your back." Braden wasn't listening. He was escalating. He had committed to the narrative in his head. The narrative that said this man didn't belong here, that this money wasn't his, that this situation needed force to be resolved. Before we see how this absolute travesty of justice unfolds, I need you to take a second. Look at the situation. A veteran standing tall, a rookie cop losing control, and a system about to break. If you believe respect should go both ways, smash that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment telling me if you would have gotten on the ground. Because what happens next is going to make your blood boil. Marcus turned slowly, careful not to make any sudden moves. He knew the drill. He knew the law better than the man holding the weapon. He knew that any flinch could be interpreted as furtive movement in a police report. He placed his hands behind his back, interlacing his fingers. "I am complying under duress," Marcus stated loud enough for the growing crowd to hear. "I am stating for the record that I have committed no crime, I have offered no resistance, and this officer is violating my civil rights." Braden holstered his taser and roughly grabbed Marcus's wrists. The metal cuffs ratcheted tight, too tight. "You're done talking," Braden muttered. "No, son," Marcus whispered, a sound like gravel grinding on steel. "I'm just getting started." To understand the gravity of the mistake Officer Kyle Braden had just made, You have to understand the man he had just put in handcuffs. Marcus Thorne was not just a suspect. He was a pillar of the community, a man whose life had been defined by discipline, service, and honor. 15 minutes before Officer Braden decided to ruin his own career. Marcus had parked his pristine 1969 Ford Mustang in the lot. He parked it diagonally across 2 spaces at the far end of the lot to avoid door dings, a habit he'd kept for 30 years before walking to the ATM. He wasn't there to rob the bank. He was the treasurer for the local VFW Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 492. That Saturday was the annual Heroes and Hamburgers charity drive. They needed cash to pay the band the caterer and to have petty cash on hand for the raffle. Marcus had authorized the withdrawal of $800 from the Post's account, a transaction he had performed dozens of times before. He had the withdrawal slip in his pocket. He had the debit card with his name on it. He had the authorization code on his phone. Marcus Thorne had spent 30 years in the United States Navy. He retired as a Master Chief Petty Officer. For those of you who haven't served, let me explain what that means. A Master Chief isn't just a rank. It's a force of nature. They run the ship. They mentor the officers. They are the backbone of the fleet. Marcus had done 4 combat tours. He had served in the Gulf. He had served in Afghanistan. He had managed millions of dollars of equipment and the lives of thousands of sailors. He had a chest full of ribbons and a prosthetic plate in his knee from a fall on a carrier deck during a storm in the North Atlantic. He had moved to Oak Creek 5 years ago to be closer to his grandchildren. He spent his days consulting for a defense contractor and restoring classic cars. He was the kind of neighbor who loaned you his tools and brought your trash cans in when you were on vacation. Officer Kyle Braden, on the other hand, was operating on a hunch and a glitch. The suspicious activity report hadn't come from a frantic citizen. It came from a glitchy automated sensor on the ATM that had been flagging potential skimmer activity for 2 days because a technician had installed a new card reader incorrectly. The bank manager knew about it. The day shift sergeant knew about it. But Officer Braden, eager to make a bust, saw a notification pop up on his terminal's silent alarm. ATM tampering. He arrived on the scene and saw Marcus. He didn't see a retired Master Chief. He didn't see a grandfather. He saw a black man standing at an ATM with a thick stack of bills in his hand. Braden's mind filled in the blanks with prejudice instead of facts. Black male plus cash plus alarm equals criminal. It was a simple, lazy, and dangerous equation. Braden didn't check the specific details of the alarm. He didn't observe Marcus for behavior. He simply pulled his cruiser up to the curb, jumped out, and decided to take control. When Marcus had turned to face him, Braden saw the calm demeanor not as innocence, but as arrogance. He wasn't used to people looking him in the eye. He was used to fear. And when Marcus refused to grovel, refused to lay his tailored slacks on the oil-stained pavement, Braden's ego took the wheel. "You have ID?" Braden had asked initially before the taser came out. "I do," Marcus had replied, his hand hovering near his back pocket. "It's in my wallet." "Keep your hands where I can see them." Braden had panicked. "Why are you standing so close to the machine? You blocking the camera?" "I'm blocking the sun glare so I can see the screen," Marcus said, his patience already thinning. "Officer, I'm going to finish my transaction, and then I'm going to my car." "You aren't going anywhere." That was the moment Braden decided this wasn't an investigation anymore. It was a conquest. He unholstered his taser. He escalated a transaction into a felony stop. Now Marcus stood by the patrol car, the metal cuffs digging into the scar tissue on his wrists. He watched the young officer toss his wallet onto the hood of the cruiser. He watched Braden pick up the cash Marcus had carefully counted money meant for burgers for homeless vets and stuff it into an evidence bag like it was drug money. Marcus didn't yell. He didn't curse. He went to that place in his mind that he had gone to during shelling in the Gulf, the place of absolute icy focus. He began to memorize details. The badge number 4, 922, the nameplate. Braden, The time on the bank clock, 10:52 a.m. The license plate of the woman recording him. He wasn't a victim. He was an observer gathering intelligence for the counterattack. The air in the parking lot was thick with tension. Braden was breathing hard, the adrenaline dump making his hands shake slightly as he patted Marcus down. He found nothing but a handkerchief, a set of keys to a vintage Ford, and a pack of peppermint gum. "You got anything on you that's going to stick me?" Braden asked, his voice rough, trying to reassert the authority he felt slipping away. "Just my dignity," Marcus replied flatly. "And you're doing your best to take that." Braden spun Marcus around and shoved him against the rear fender of the patrol car. "You want to play lawyer? Let's play. You refused to identify yourself during a lawful detention." "That is incorrect," Marcus said, speaking clearly so the bystanders could hear. "I told you my ID was in my wallet. You told me not to reach for it. Then you pulled a weapon. Furthermore, under this state's laws, failure to identify is only a secondary offense if I am already under arrest for a crime. What crime do you have reasonable, articulable suspicion that I have committed, officer?" Braden paused. He blinked. He wasn't expecting a law lecture. He was expecting begging or swearing. "The ATM, the alarm. You're standing there with a handful of cash." "Withdrawing money is not a crime," Marcus countered. "Being black at a bank is not a crime. Terry versus Ohio requires you to have specific articulable facts that criminal activity is afoot. A malfunction alarm isn't enough to detain me at gunpoint without corroboration. You didn't ask for my card. You didn't ask for my receipt." "I'm asking for your ID now," Braden shouted, leaning into Marcus's face. "It's in the wallet you just threw on the hood of your car," Marcus said, nodding his head toward the vehicle. "Open it. Look at it. My driver's license, my retired military ID, my concealed carry permit, which, by the way, informs you that I am a law-abiding citizen vetted by the FBI." Braden grabbed the wallet. He flipped it open. He saw the California driver's license, Marcus Aurelius Thorne. He saw the address, a house in the Hidden Hills subdivision, a neighborhood Braden couldn't afford to live in. Then he saw the blue retired military ID card, United States Navy, rank E9. Braden's stomach should have dropped. He should have realized right then that he had screwed up. He was holding the credentials of a man who had served his country for longer than Braden had been alive. A smart officer would have uncuffed him, dusted him off, apologized profusely, and blamed the bank's faulty alarm. But Officer Kyle Braden suffered from a terminal case of pride. He looked at the ID, looked at the crowd watching him, and felt cornered. If he let the guy go now, he'd look weak. He'd look like he made a mistake. And in Braden's world, police officers didn't make mistakes. "This doesn't prove the card you used was yours," Braden said, clutching at straws. "For all I know, you stole a card and you're emptying the account. That's identity theft." "Check the name on the debit card in the machine," Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming dangerous. "Go ahead. I'll wait." "I'm not playing fetch for you," Braden sneered. "You were acting disorderly. You were belligerent. You refused a lawful order to get on the ground." "I told you I have a disability," Marcus said. "The Americans with Disabilities Act applies even to police stops. You ignored a medical alert." "You're resisting," Braden said, the catch-all phrase for, "I don't like your attitude." "I am standing still in handcuffs," Marcus said. "The only thing I am resisting is your incompetence." That was the breaking point. Braden slammed the wallet shut. "That's it. You're going in. Disorderly conduct, obstruction of justice, and suspicion of fraud." "You are making a career-ending decision, son," Marcus said, shaking his head. "Get in the car." Braden shoved Marcus's head down unnecessarily rough and forced him into the cramped back seat of the cruiser. The door slammed shut, sealing Marcus in the stale air of the police interceptor. Through the window, he saw Braden puffing his chest out, addressing the crowd. "Show's over, back away, just a scammer getting caught." Marcus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Scammer. He had been called many things in his life: sailor, chief, husband, father, widower, but never a scammer. He felt the cold steel of the cuffs biting into his wrists. He thought about the men he had led, the discipline he had instilled in them. He thought about the oath he took to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, looking at the back of Officer Braden's head through the plexiglass, Marcus knew exactly who the domestic enemy was. The parking lot had turned into a stage, and Officer Braden was the villain in a play he didn't realize was being broadcast. As he walked around the car to the driver's seat, a woman stepped out from the crowd. She was about 55, wearing a jogging suit, holding her phone steady with both hands. "Officer," she called out. Her voice was shaking but loud. "Officer, I have the whole thing on video. He didn't do anything. He was just standing there." Braden stopped, his hand resting on his door handle. He glared at her. "Ma'am, step back. This is an active investigation. Do not interfere." "I'm not interfering. I'm documenting," she shouted back. "I heard him tell you about his knees. I saw him offer you the receipt." "You just arrested a man for nothing. He's a suspect in a financial crime ring." Braden lied, his voice loud enough for the camera. He needed to establish a narrative. "He refused to cooperate." "He offered you his ID," the woman yelled. "My name is Brenda and I'm a paralegal. I know what I saw. You are profiling him." Braden's face flushed red. "Back away or you'll be joining him for obstruction." Inside the car, Marcus watched this exchange. He gave a small, imperceptible nod to Brenda. Good girl, he thought. Keep the tape rolling. He shifted his weight, trying to ease the pressure on his lower back. The plastic seats of a police cruiser are designed for easy cleaning, not comfort, and certainly not for a man with a fused disc. Pain radiated up his spine, but he pushed it down. He wouldn't give Braden the satisfaction of seeing him wince. Braden got into the car, slamming the door. The interior smelled of coffee sweat and that industrial cleaner that never quite masks the scent of misery. He adjusted his rearview mirror, catching Marcus's eyes. "You comfortable back there, Chief?" Braden asked, sneering the rank he had seen on the ID card. He used the title as a slur, mocking Marcus's service. Marcus didn't blink. He didn't look away. "I'm fine, Officer Braden, but I'm curious. Do you have a sergeant? A lieutenant?" "I don't need a babysitter," Braden snapped, starting the engine. "You're going to wish you had one," Marcus said softly. "Because when we get to the station, the first thing I'm going to do is ask for the watch commander. And then I'm going to ask for your Bodycam footage to be preserved. And then I'm going to call the city attorney." Yeah. Everyone's got a lawyer." Braden laughed, peeling out of the parking lot with more aggression than necessary. "You guys are all the same. Always the victim." "You guys," Marcus repeated. "Clarify that for me. You mean veterans, or do you mean black men?" Braden didn't answer. He just turned up the radio, drowning out the silence with the crackle of dispatch chatter. He drove fast, weaving through traffic, using his lights to cut through a red intersection. He was power tripping. He felt invincible. He had the badge, the gun, and the car. The guy in the back was just another stat. But Marcus wasn't a stat. As the scenery blurred by the manicured lawns of Oak Creek giving way to the concrete of the Civic Center, Marcus began to formulate his strategy. He wouldn't just sue for money. Money was fine, but change was better. He would go after the training protocols. He would go after the qualified immunity. He would make sure that the name Kyle Braden became a warning label in every police academy in the state. The cruiser slowed as they approached the precinct. Braden tapped the steering wheel, looking pleased with himself. "Here we are. Hope you like bologna sandwiches." Marcus looked at the brick building. He had been inside it before, actually. 2 years ago, he had been invited to give a speech on Veterans Day to the department. He wondered if anyone would remember him. "Officer Braden," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the noise of the radio one last time. "Before you open that door and drag me out, I want you to take a breath. Think about what you're doing. You can still fix this. You can turn around, take me back to my car, and apologize. I'll walk away. We chalk it up to a bad day." It was a genuine offer. A mercy. Marcus knew the destruction that was coming, and a part of him, the leader who had trained young sailors, pitied the kid. Braden laughed, a harsh barking sound. "You're delusional, old man. You're going in the cage." "Very well," Marcus whispered. "Stand by to stand by." The drive into the Sallyport, the secure garage where police unload arrestees, was dark and echoed with the sound of the rolling metal door closing behind them. Braden parked the cruiser and hauled Marcus out. "Let's go. Move it," Braden commanded, gripping Marcus's arm. They walked through the heavy steel doors into the processing area. It was a sterile room with fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry hornets. There was a holding bench with a metal bar, a fingerprint scanner, and a high booking desk where the desk sergeant sat overlooking the chaos. "Got a live one?" Braden announced loudly, parading Marcus in like a trophy hunter. "Suspicious activity at the B of A. Tampering with the ATM. Resisting. Disorderly." The desk sergeant was a man named Thomas O'Malley. He was 55 years old, thick around the middle, with gray hair cut short and a face that looked like a road map of hard years. He was reading a file, not looking up. "Fill out the intake forms, Braden. Put him on the bench." "Guy claims he's a veteran," Braden scoffed, pushing Marcus toward the bench. "Thinks that gives him a pass to act like a thug." At the word thug, O'Malley looked up. He adjusted his glasses, squinting at the prisoner. The room seemed to freeze. The air went out of the room. O'Malley's eyes went wide. He stood up slowly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor tiles. "Master Chief," O'Malley said. His voice wasn't authoritative. It was stunned. It was the voice of a junior sailor addressing a god. Marcus looked up, recognizing the face. It took a moment. The man was older, heavier, but the eyes were the same. "Petty Officer O'Malley, USS Theodore Roosevelt, 1991. "Yes, Master Chief," O'Malley stammered. He came around the desk, ignoring Braden entirely. What is this? Why are you in cuffs?" Braden looked between them, confusion clouding his face. "Sarge, you know this guy. He's the suspect. Caught him with a wad of cash and no ID." "Shut your mouth, Braden," O'Malley snapped. The venom in his voice made the rookie flinch. O'Malley walked right up to Marcus. "Master Chief, I don't know what to say." "You can start by telling this boot to take these cuffs off me, O'Malley," Marcus said calmly. "They're cutting off my circulation." "Unlock him. Now," O'Malley barked at Braden. "But Sarge, he's a suspect. I have to process him." Braden protested, still not grasping the situation. He was tampering with the ATM. "Unlock him or I will suspend you right here and now," O'Malley roared. Braden fumbled for his keys. His hands were shaking. He unlocked the cuffs. Marcus rubbed his wrists where deep red, angry lines had formed. He rotated his shoulders, hearing the pop of his joints. "Thank you, Thomas," Marcus said, using the sergeant's first name. "It's good to see you made rank." "Braden," O'Malley said, his voice dangerously low. "Do you know who this is? This is Master Chief Marcus Thorne. This man ran the flight deck during the storm. He saved 3 men from a burning F-14 while you were still in diapers. What exactly is your probable cause?" He was at the ATM," Braden stammered. "There was a silent alarm. He had cash." "Did you find a skimming device?" O'Malley asked. "No, but did you confirm the card was stolen?" "He wouldn't show me the card, I have the card right here," Marcus interrupted. He reached into his pocket now that his hands were free and pulled out his Navy Federal debit card. He handed it to O'Malley. "And here is the receipt. $800 withdrawal. Approved. Account ending in 4490. My account." O'Malley looked at the receipt. He looked at the card. He looked at Braden with a mix of pity and disgust. "You arrested a man for withdrawing his own money?" O'Malley asked. "He was resisting. He wouldn't get on the ground." Braden argued, his voice pitching higher. "He was being aggressive." "I told him I had bad knees," Marcus corrected. "And I told him I wasn't getting on the dirty ground for a non-existent crime." "Get the watch commander," O'Malley said to another officer standing nearby. "Get Lieutenant Carver down here, now." Braden took a step back. "Sarge, come on. We can fix this. Just release him with a warning. No need to involve the LT." Marcus laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "A warning? You think you're going to warn me, son? The only thing happening right now is you are about to receive a lesson in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or in this case, the civil equivalent." The door to the processing area swung open, and Lieutenant Carver walked in. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a reputation for being fair, but tough. She saw O'Malley standing next to a man in a suit and Braden looking like he wanted to dissolve into the floor. "What is the problem here?" Carver asked. "Officer Braden brought in a prisoner," O'Malley said, handing her the receipt and the intake sheet. "False arrest, no probable cause, unlawful detention, and he handcuffed a retired Navy Master Chief for using an ATM." Carver read the papers. She looked at the timestamp. She looked at Marcus. "Sir, I'm Lieutenant Carver. Are you injured?" "My wrists are bruised, my back is spasming, and my constitutional rights have been shredded," Marcus said. "I want the Bodycam footage pulled immediately. I want the dash cam footage. I want the logs of the silent alarm to see exactly what information was dispatched." "We will preserve all evidence," Carver said. She turned to Braden. "Officer Braden into my office. Now, surrender your firearm and badge to Sergeant O'Malley before you enter." Braden's jaw dropped. "Lieutenant, I followed procedure. He fit the description." "There was no description." Carver yelled, her voice echoing off the tile walls. "The dispatch log says malfunction at ATM, check for technician. It did not say black male suspect. You made that up." The silence that followed was heavy. Braden looked around the room for support, but the other officers were looking at their boots or busy with paperwork. No one was going to jump on this grenade. Braden unholstered his weapon with trembling hands. He placed it on the desk. He unpinned his badge. He looked like a child who had been caught stealing. "Am I under arrest?" Marcus asked. "Because if I am, I'd like to call my lawyer. If I'm not, I'm walking out that door." "You are free to go, sir." Carver said, her tone apologetic. "I am deeply sorry for this. We can offer you a ride home." "In a police car?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "No, thank you. I've had enough of your hospitality. My wife is picking me up. But, Lieutenant—" "Yes, sir." "Don't think an apology fixes this," Marcus said. He leaned in his voice, calm but terrifying. "I fought for the freedom of people in countries you can't find on a map. I'll be damned if I let some hotshot kid take my freedom in a strip mall parking lot because he doesn't like the way I look. Expect the paperwork on Monday." Marcus turned and walked out of the processing area. He walked with a slight limp that hadn't been there in the morning, favoring his left knee. O'Malley watched him go, shaking his head. "He's gonna own the department," O'Malley muttered. "He should," Carver replied, staring at Braden. "He absolutely should." Marcus didn't wait until Monday. He called his lawyer from the Uber on the way home. By Sunday evening, the video Brenda had taken hit Twitter. By Monday morning, it had 2 million views. The hashtag veteran arrested was trending #1 in the United States. The video was damning. It showed a calm, well-dressed elderly man being screamed at by a frantic, aggressive cop. It showed the moment Braden shoved Marcus. It showed the crowd begging the officer to stop. The lawsuit was filed on Wednesday. Marcus A. Thorne versus the City of Oak Creek officer Kyle Braden et al. It was a masterpiece of legal writing. It alleged Fourth Amendment violations, false imprisonment, assault battery, and racial profiling. But the real damage came from the discovery phase. Marcus's lawyer, a shark named David Sterling, subpoenaed Braden's entire disciplinary record. What they found was a pattern. Kyle Braden had been on the force for 3 years. In that time, he had stopped 42 people for suspicious activity. 38 of them were black or Hispanic men. Almost all of them were in the financial district or affluent neighborhoods. He had a habit of patrolling areas where he felt minorities didn't belong. There were complaints. A 60-year-old dentist stopped while walking his dog. A black real estate agent detained while showing a house. All of them had been dismissed by Internal Affairs as unfounded or within policy. But when laid out in a spreadsheet, the data was undeniable. Braden wasn't policing crime. He was policing boundaries. The city attorney took one look at the deposition tapes and the Bodycam footage and called the mayor. "We can't go to trial," the attorney said. "If we put Master Chief Thorne on the stand with his medals and his calm demeanor and then play the video of Braden screaming like a banshee, the jury will give him the keys to the city. We need to settle." The investigation also revealed the silent alarm issue. The bank had sent an email to the police dispatch 2 hours before the arrest notifying them that the alarm was a glitch and to ignore it. Dispatch had broadcast the cancellation. Braden had ignored it or missed it because he was too busy profiling Marcus. The media pressure was intense. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they all covered it. It was one of those rare stories that united everyone. Conservatives were outraged that a veteran was treated this way. Liberals were outraged at the racial profiling. The police chief had to hold a press conference where he looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. Officer Braden remained suspended without pay. During his internal hearing, he tried to argue that he felt threatened. "Threatened by what?" the Internal Affairs captain asked. "By a 60-year-old man standing still. He had a commanding presence," Braden said. "I felt he was overbearing." "You mean he wasn't afraid of you?" the captain corrected. "That's not a threat, son. That's respect. And you didn't earn it." 6 months later, the settlement was announced. The city of Oak Creek agreed to pay Marcus Thorne $860,000 to settle all claims. It was one of the largest settlements in the city's history for a single arrest. But Marcus didn't buy a boat. He didn't go on a cruise. Officer Kyle Braden was terminated. His certification was revoked by the state board, meaning he could never work as a police officer in the state again. The last anyone heard, he was working at a car rental agency in another county. Marcus stood on the steps of the courthouse the day the settlement was finalized. The press was there. He wore his VFW cap and a suit. "This money," Marcus said into the microphones, holding up the check, "is not a lottery win. It is a penalty. It is a fine that the taxpayers are paying because their city refused to train its officers to see a man before they see a color." He continued, "I am taking this $860,000 and I am starting the Thorne Legal Defense Fund for veterans. Any veteran in this state who is mistreated by police, who is profiled, who is abused, you call us. We will fight for you. Because I spent 30 years defending the Constitution, and I'll be damned if I stop now." The initiative changed the department. The city implemented mandatory bias training. They overhauled their hiring process to weed out the warrior cop mentality that Braden embodied. They installed an early warning system to catch officers with profiling patterns. Marcus returned to his quiet life. He still fixed up Mustangs. He still organized the charity drives for the VFW. But when he walked into the bank now, the officers who saw him didn't see a suspect. They nodded. They waved. They showed respect. Not because of the money, but because he was the man who didn't get on the ground. This story isn't just about one bad apple. It's about a system that allows bias to fester until it explodes. Marcus Thorne had the rank, the money, and the knowledge to fight back. But ask yourself what happens to the 18-year-old kid who doesn't have a Master Chief's confidence. What happens to the guy who gets scared and runs? Justice was served here, but only because Marcus was strong enough to demand it. It makes you wonder how many times this happens in the dark with no cameras rolling. What do you think? Was $860,000 enough for the humiliation of a hero? Or should the price have been higher? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you believe in holding the line for our rights, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's keep telling the stories that matter. Stay safe out there, folks.